very believe. And these people didn't believe because all they knew was here a little, there a little. All they knew was the law. That's what they knew. Here a little, there a little, and that's all they knew. And here comes the Assyrians. They come in and they spoke to them, and they still didn't understand because they spoke to them in tongues. But I think this is really interesting that it's all worked around like this, that where the Assyrians comes in there and preach to them, and guess what happens after that? Guess who takes them away? The Assyrians takes them away. And it's kind of strange that he didn't take them away to somebody that maybe God hadn't prepared. And he takes them away. And they are some of them called the lost tribe that has been gone ever since then. And there's some of these people in that lost tribe that 100 years ago, some people from Britain had found some of them people there that was from, I call them Manasseh, but I think they call them Manasseh or something like that, and Benai and Manasseh. And that's where they're finding some of these people, what the tribes are from. And these people has went along still sacrificing and still keeping all the rituals that they had done from back then. They were still doing do and rule and rule. They're still doing the old law and still doing those things. But they found them. And not only that did they find them, they're saying there's some close to 4,000 that has returned to Israel. And they say that there's some, maybe 6,500 more, that may return to Israel. And God and the prophets prophesied this. They prophesy of them returning back to Israel. And this is close to this. Some people are really scared, but it's evidence of really close to the times. But they returned. And I'm amazed at the way God works, how He worked this around. Because Jonah, we start back there where Jonah goes the wrong way. Look how this turns out. And I kind of wonder when Jonah went in there and preached, because I wonder if maybe the word of him being in the belly of the fish 3 days and 3 nights, and Jonah thinking, oh no, salvation comes from God, and he didn't share that message a little bit when he preached to them. Because it sure reflects Christ. And obviously, Jesus said they're going to rise up in the last day and judge this generation, talking about those of the scribes and the Pharisees there. And that's kind of the end of the story. I hope that made a little sense, how this kind of brought around how God is amazing, how powerful He is, how He takes someone like Jonah, because Jonah didn't have rest in the Word. He had the other way. He was unsettled in that. He wasn't sure about that. I don't want to go preach to them. So he headed the other direction. But he needed rest. He needed that. And that rest, when we find that rest, we cannot enter in without that rest. And when we come into that rest, it's rest in hope. And that's rest in that peace, and that's rest in the Word, and that's rest in faith in God. That's the rest that we have when we believe. We believe in God and we rest in God. And we're not afraid of any of these things that would overtake us and come on us. But we have rest. And we can rest in His Word. And I got to thinking of this word that He sent out with Jonah, and the word that He sent by these prophets that went everywhere, that they just didn't know. They was taken by the wind as they moved around, speaking of Christ and telling of His coming. I wonder, because it says the testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy in Revelations. Like Jonah, we go around, and sometimes we think we've messed up and we go the wrong way. Sometimes God may straighten us up and get us on the right path. Or we may think that that God can't see us and we hide out from Him. We know better than that. But I just thinking it's interesting that the spirit of prophecy, the testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy, and then James it says, those that has the testimony in them has life. And so we have life. We have everlasting life. And we don't have to be afraid. And this same message that come to the children of Israel, because they didn't, it seemed like it was a foreign tongue, and they didn't understand it, and they just thought, here, do, rule. But anyway, that is the message this morning. And I thought if anybody wanted anything to add to that, or if you had any questions or anything, if it didn't make any sense to you, I would like to kind of go over it again with you if we could, But But I'm going to end it there. If y'all had any questions or anything you want to add to that, I'll give a few minutes there if you want to do that as I pick up my papers. And I've got, oh, go ahead. I've got the stories here of them returning here if y'all wanted to see that. And it's got some of the prophecies. It's got some of the people. I don't have very many here, but and I think that would be an interesting. And get you shake it. There you go. There you go. Okay. Yeah. There's one more left if anybody wants it. Oh yeah. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, there's one. There's Duff.
It's interesting that the book of Revelation talks about the lost tribes of Israel, and that they name 12,000 ministers for
Mm-hmm.
each of the tribes.
Yep.
And they also name in that same breath Judah as one of the tribes.
Oh yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Tribe of Dan. And that could.
So the descendants of Israel, I believe, quite obviously, do exist.
Mm-hmm.
Some that you talk about are closer to understanding who they really are than
Yeah.
the rest of the world doesn't recognize.
Yeah. You wonder what's going on out there in those areas. There's something I was going to add to this real quick here, because some of those areas close to where they were carried away, I was reading last night that some of those areas, and this is Iran, which is just right back off from the area there where they was, and they are suffering persecution. You know, they can't just confess their beliefs, but they said that there's more in the last 20 years come to Christ than they have in 1,300 years, in the last 20. And they said that now, here a few years ago, there was just a few thousand. They said that there's possibly around or more than 3 million that believes in Iran, in that area there. That's underground. You've probably seen some of those stories on that. That's impressive, and that gives me hope, but it also lets me know times are getting a little closer, but which is a good thing. Yeah. I was reading one of the comments on there, and they talked about how that they said they rejoice, but it's too soon for them. They're not ready. They want to go out and do some vacationing. Yeah. Yeah. I've heard of them. Just the dreams they're having, and they're coming. I seen one picture, and there's like a swimming pool, and they said there was like thousands there, and they was getting baptized, and just coming into the pool, and there's just several people there baptizing them, you know, and these were all Muslims, you know, and it's amazing. It's amazing because that's such a strong faith.